Good evening, guys. I am your host, Erica Nichole Mason. I am joined by my fellow panelist, Ben.
My name is Benjamin Moore. I designed a language arts learning system for children where I use music, dance, lyricism, and theater as teaching tools. So I rap, I dance, I sing, I act, and I teach kids pre-K to 8th grade, all about linguistics, which is the science of language. My PhD is actually in teaching and learning with a concentration in language and literacy. And my master's and bachelor's degrees are both in linguistics.
Awesome. And Lewis Johnson at Min Levin Wright.
My name is Lewis Johnson, born and raised Brooklyn, New York. Min Levin Wright is actually a name that it's actually an organization that I'm trying to start up, which helps men to help young men love right, and not just in relationships, but their families, their homes, their communities, their God, is to really help them bring all that together so that your relationship can be much better with your family. And so far it's going so well. At Min Levin Wright is my Instagram page, also Lewis Johnson at Facebook. I also graduated with my graduate degree was information systems, which is funny because it's more in that digital stage, and I want to learn about the digital age of relationships. I'm also certified in NLP, which is called neuro-linguistic programming, and it deals with helping people with trauma and helping people with showing them a different pattern from the way they've been going, especially if they desire to have something different in their life to change. So, but thank you. I'm glad to be here.
Awesome. And the beautiful Kait.
Yeah, I am an actor. I now own my own production company. I've been doing music videos for clients of mine. I also sing. I've done some modeling. I improv. I'll tell a joke if you pay me enough. Yeah, that's me.
Awesome. My good and best friend, Jolon.
Hey guys. I was born in New York, Queens, New York. So I still represent New York, although I live in Atlanta, Georgia, or somewhere in Georgia. I am in the medical field. I've always wanted to be in the medical field, so I'm doing what I love. I do high-risk ultrasound for pregnant women. Love my job. I have a 15-year-old son. Yeah, I'm a single mom, and I'm so ecstatic to be a part of the Purple Mic.
Yay! All right, awesome. So tonight's conversation is Cuddie Buddies. Ben, what is a Cuddie Buddy? Like seriously,
Well,
what is a Cuddie Buddy?
Well, say what now?
I never knew what that actually meant, like what a Cuddie Buddy was.
Yeah, well, so a Cuddie Buddy is a person that you just have a physical relationship with. I think it comes from like the use of the term getting some cut up. You know what I'm saying? Like I used to say that years ago, like I'm getting some cut up, and that was like a euphemism for saying you're gonna have coitus. So so a Cuddie Buddy is a person that you get some cutty from. And they're your buddy in that regard. So yes.
Kait, have you heard this term before?
Cuddie, that's the first time I've ever heard that.
It's crazy. You say from the South, right? It's from the South.
Yeah, I feel like maybe different generation. I've never really, like, that's new to me. I'm used to like fuck buddy.
Right.
Used to fuck buddy. I'm used to that, or fuck boy.
A little different, kind of. It's a little different, but okay.
I love it. I love Kait. What about you, Lewis?
I've heard of it before. Someone, you just that's your girl, that's your dude. When time of need, whatever it is, it's actually a person you feel comfortable with and coming over or doing whatever you want to do, and there's no strings attached.
Awesome. Okay, so let's get into the question answer. I just really want to know, because the entire topic, in fact, is interesting. What is the connection between a man and a woman, making them skip the art of love, commitment, and go directly to the sheets? So we're talking about the desires of quote unquote flesh. Why are we skipping the art of love? Everything that we discussed in episode 1, when we talked about game and, the maturation of a relationship, and just saying, you know what, let's skip all that. Let's just get the gratification in this. Why?
I think the emphasis on marriage and long-term relationship has gotten lost in translation somewhere. The divorce rate is on the rise. I even just was randomly looking on Google, just looking at something else and just, seeing the rate at which people are getting divorced, especially because of the pandemic as well, it's high. I don't know what in life people are looking for, and that's just the honest truth, because we all grew up, even if we grew up in a single parent home, or even if our parents were married at some point, we in our youth probably have decided at some point if we wanted it or not. Changed our mind, went back, just in our everyday life, if that's something for me, can I see myself being married? And I think a lot of people have kind of deviated from that path. I think a lot of people just want the convenience of not getting involved, being with whoever they want to be with without any strings attached. It just takes the pressure off. It's very convenient for people to kind of move around. So I think love has just been lost in translation. I mean, if you ask 50 people in a room what love means, you'll probably get 50 different answers. So I just feel like a lot of people aren't looking for love. They're looking for lust. And so they find that in just getting with somebody, satisfying a craving that they have, and then moving on. It's like, that's fulfilled. Let me just, I'm good. I can move on now. So
Greatest love is, and as beautiful as it is, it's also painful, right? We know it's painful. We know it's something that is hard to find because it cannot be defined. And I think you can get the feeling that people have a misconception of. They think they can only get the feeling of the sexual feeling through having great love, and you don't necessarily need great love to get the sexual feeling. And what people have found out, and this is years history that no one could really figure this out, even from biblical terms. And that's why, the Bible talks about, saving yourself until your marriage, or saving sex for only marriage, because it brings on such different emotions and thought process and painful things. It directs your life. It's a game changer. You can go in as cut buddies, right? And it can be someone you're sleeping with, and next thing you know, it's like someone's catching feelings. And it's not like you treat each other dirty, because you still treat each other nice. I mean, you cool. It is what it is. But then someone oversteps the bounds. I don't care what you say. And then what creeps in is that undeniable feeling of wanting to be with someone who you love being around. And love creeps in. Love has a way of coming and experiencing and really attacking you in a certain way that's uncontrollable. Whether you're ready for it or not, it's what you do with it. And the fact that we don't know what to do with it once it comes is the mere reason why we so jacked up sometimes and not really engaging with it correctly. So I think we play Russian roulette when we go straight to the game of sex, right? Because there is a possibility that things change. God made it a reason. We're human beings. He made it for that reason, that, it is a game changer. And I think, I'm not saying what he's trying to do, but he said, if you're going to do it with someone that you designed to be with. Because without it, hurt comes, because you're going to hurt someone when it doesn't match up like it's supposed to, or they're not your forever. Because that person that you want to be with, you want them to be with you forever. Like, wow, I want this feeling. I want this whole thing with you all the time. And I think we get that mixed up, and which causes hurt and pain.
I don't think it's always necessarily skipping love. I think people have more love for other things. It's not, I do agree with what both the other people said, but I think sometimes it's more, I love me right now, and there are some things that are better with not just me. And I'd like to have this person for that one thing. But right now, I'm loving me. That's where my love is. It's not necessarily a lack of love. It's just sometimes turned more inward than focused on what love you need from another person.
I love the way that we all, both genders, we can, seesaw on this topic, because I know for myself, stemming from biblical roots, I totally, like I said, in our previous episodes before, the whole casual thing, for me is like, yeah, I'm good, because I'm exchanging souls, I'm exchanging, spirits, and it's much deeper. I think, to Lewis's point, I definitely agree with the fact that, who you interchange with, a lot of things can grow from that, which is not a bad thing. But in the end, if it's not mutual, yeah, it can leave a crimson stain. So that's really dope that both of you have different perspectives on love. Okay, so is a woman disrespecting herself and her value if she lays with a man and gives him sex, though consensual?
So, well, first of all, kind of going back to the original question, I think that this happens when kind of a little bit of what everybody was saying, like in terms of like when the weight of the commitment or the weight of commitment itself is just too heavy. You know what I'm saying? Like sometimes when you come out of a relationship, you're weary from it. Like Lewis said, it's like relationships, as good as they are tough. You know what I'm saying? And it takes a lot out of you. And so post relationship, or even like, when you're not really looking for that long-term commitment, sometimes you make those types of decisions. And to Kait's point, I don't think it's actually a lack of love. Like it's not that you're shunning love because you're sleeping with somebody else. Mm-hmm. It's just more so that you are in a space where you have a specific set of needs, and like you said, it's better with someone else. You know what I'm saying? Like I think man and woman, we were universally, cosmologically, biologically designed, and so that union is something that literally begets life after it. So it's just a strong union, and we all want that. So at any rate, if there's is a woman different, or do I look at a woman differently? No, not necessarily. I think if you are either giving, if you for the streets and for the community, that's one thing. But I think that if you're trying to vibe with somebody and y'all have a vibe, and y'all might not think it's going to be forever, but at least y'all know that y'all have enough, y'all on the same frequency, y'all can serve each other for what you all need for each other in that moment, and for some people in your life for a reason or a season or a lifetime. Mm-hmm. And so that might not be your lifetime person, but they could be a seasoned person, and somebody you can rock out with on whatever level of intimacy you want, and you move from there. I do understand both perspectives, because the union between man and woman is something that's sacred. It is a very sacred union, because again, it creates life. Literally, our species perpetuates because of the union between man and woman, and so it's a very heavy thing, and I get that. But again, because we're sentient beings, we can make certain decisions, and I definitely think that if you're going to engage in that, you still have to keep all those things in mind that you're talking about. You have to keep in mind that you want to have somebody that's on your level. You know what I'm saying? You can't just, be personally, you still got to be, even though you're not choosing somebody for forever, you still got to be choosing. You know what I'm saying? Like that person that you're going to rock out with like that, they need to be on your level, and they be on your energy, on your frequency. And if they're not, then you start getting these, this disharmony with energies and spirits, like you were talking about, like, and that's when you have this, create these toxic environments. But so with that being said, long term, you want that forever sacredness, but it is possible. I think you can do it in a healthy way, be with somebody that's not forever, but services you and her, or you all both in the moment.
Jolon, is a woman disrespecting herself and her value if she lays with a man and gives him sex, though consensual?
No, I don't think so. I think God created us for sex. Yes, inside of marriage. Yes, inside the confines of the covenant. But we all are human beings. We have done the do, all of us, but I don't think it's disrespect.
I'm still a virgin. I'm joking. Go ahead. I'm sorry. Right? Damn. Why all these, like, why I got a strange look? Like, what?
Sorry.
Yeah. I don't think it's a disrespectful thing, you know, even if you are not in a committed relationship, like Kait said, you know, if you're inwardly loving yourself and you've decided to do that with someone, you made a decision. You're a grown person. You decided that's what was best for you in the moment, and you go with that. You know, we're grown. We're not kids. There's no pedophilia going on. You know, it's nothing like, you know, if it's forceful, then, you know, that's not even the woman's fault. But yeah, if it's consensual, it's something that you want to do, something that you want to engage in. No, it's nothing degrading or anything like that. It's a decision.
I think
Hmm.
if you're always going to define what your value is by what somebody else say, then that means you don't know your own value. So to say that sex devalues you, it's probably where you put your value. Because there's some people who just do it and like, what? I'm still getting paid. I don't care what you think. My value is good. I still do this. I still get whatever, and I'm still doing what I need to do. So what you think about me doesn't matter. So I think it's in the individual and how they perceive themselves. I know I usually tell women have asked me that question. If I sleep with somebody, why does the guy does that make him feel like he don't want to be with me anymore, or the chase is gone? I'm like, listen, you have to be a lady. It depends on what the man is looking at and what he's chasing. If he's not chasing you for sex, but he's chasing you for who you are as a woman, then sex does not do anything from a devaluing standpoint. Because if he's still interested, because we know people that sleep with each other, for the first time or really early, and they're together. So it's a lot of very different variables that are actually in there. But I think if you carry yourself as a lady and you know what your value is, and it's not sex, then it shouldn't be it. It doesn't really affect anything what somebody else is saying.
Awesome. So I'm going to switch gears for a minute. I just want to hear from the fellas for 1 second. Okay. And I'm going to switch the question around. Does a man's view of that woman diminish? Does she carry less value in his eye? So you're dating this chick. Maybe you're not dating. Again, you're just Cuddie Buddies. You guys just cuddle, spoon, hold, kick it, midnight hour phone calls, whatever. Do you feel some type of way after a moment once you've been kicking it with her for a while? Like, what, had you, I know what you're about, I'm used to you. Do you start to look at her value? Has it gone down in full totality?
Okay, so in the general manosphere, you know what I'm saying? And I hope I'm used, like there's so many different connotations of what that word means, but just in the general of mendom, I think that sometimes some men can't have that mentality because it's the whole, what is it? New is always better, right? You know what I'm saying? So you're gonna have dudes that are chasing that. It's always new is always better. Yeah, that's gonna be the truth. That's gonna be the case sometimes, but that's not always the case. You know what I'm saying? One of my favorite artists, Andre 3000, and he has one of his albums, The Love Below. He talks about like he has a whole skit where he just slept with this woman, and then it's like the next day, it's the morning after. And like they're both having like these internal monologues about what happened, what occurred, and their thoughts and everything. And that's one of the things he said. She's like, he gonna think I'm some kind of hoe. And he's like, I know she thinks I know she thinks she's some kind of hoe, but that just makes me know she knows she wants out of life. So I think that with that being said, some men take that perspective. Like, I just know what she's about, you know what I'm saying? And if it's good, we can rock out, then, it can continue on to perpetuate. I think that there can be a number of factors to why somebody will, shift their gears or shift their affections for someone. Sex can be one of them, definitely, yes, and having that. But I don't think that that's an end all be all, or that's the only factor, or it's even the main factor. Typically, if a man is having sex with a woman regularly, it takes a little bit for him not to stop rocking with her. You know what I'm saying? Like, he's not just going to just automatically just stop. It's other factors there. You know what I mean? And so, yeah, I think that a woman's value, me personally, I would never diminish the woman's value just because we had, an intimate, encounter. Hell, I could be the same way. Like, she could look at me like I'm a hoe too. You know what I'm saying? Like, so, for me, it's just all about just having a mutual understanding and valuing, placing value on the whole of a person and the totality of a person.
Yeah, I think it goes back to, again, what you value and what you're looking for. Because again, you meet someone and again, the chemistry, the vibe could be good. and things can just kind of flow like the night is going beautifully, and you just engage in that, and it could be a beautiful thing. And something beautiful can come out of that if your heart and mind is in line with each other. Because if it's not, then you're emotionally imbalanced and you don't know what you really want. If you allow sex to be the dictator of a woman, a lot of people don't understand, but they do that a lot for some of these men. You can lose a good woman by thinking just because you had sex with her, it's time to move on. I mean, even with the 90-day rule, right? People talk about the 90-day rule. Even if you waited 90 days and you finally sleep with her, it's like, okay, I finally got her. On to the next one.
Mm.
So whether you slept with somebody in the beginning or in the ending, or you waited, or you've been patient, if sex is the only thing that you're going after, then I mean, what's the point? I used to think that way when I was younger because I didn't know any better. When you start to realize the value, because I have a lot of value that I put in women once I start engaging with them and understanding what they're about and what they're, you know, and who they are to me as a man, my value go up. So I don't want to devalue that by thinking if I just engage with sex to move her aside and keep it moving. I mean, that's just wouldn't be the right thing to do. So.
Awesome. So if you're in this type of situation, is it always exclusive, or do you guys just get to kind of do what you want to do? Are you free to see other people yet still hang out and do what you do?
Yeah, I think those are just the rules that you got to set forth. And those are expectations set forth very early. You know what I'm saying? Like, I think that you have those types of conversations. You know, I think you can be in a physically exclusive relationship with somebody and like still date other people. You know what I'm saying? I think that's possible. You know, you can also just have a free for all. You know what I'm saying? You just have that person, you just send that emoji, they get it, you know, send emoji back, y'all, you know, meet up. And it's just that. And, you know, you do that with whomever else, you know. I do think when you start getting to that, that's when it starts getting a little too much for me personally. But you know, because it's just, you just mixing too much. But I do think that again, you can do it in a way that's somewhat healthy without, you know, being for the streets.
Sorry. Kait, what's your take on that? Is it an exclusive situation, or, you know, are people entitled to date and do what they want to do outside of the Cuddie Buddy dynamic?
It's whatever you and that person decide. Like, some people, it's been in situations where I said, I just don't want to hear about it. When you're around me, you're around me. When you're not around me, you don't exist to me, and vice versa. Like, just like when you're around me, just be cool with me. Don't be talking to other people while you're with me. That's it. And it's whatever. It's, you know, temporary people for temporary solutions, whatever that is for people in those moments when they need that. But yeah, it's whatever you decide, and you tell it's mutually agreed upon what it is. When it's not, that's when you get hurt feelings. When it's, you know, well, this is what it is, and then everyone makes a decision on whether or not that works for them.
For me, it's exclusivity all day. That's just how I roll. But again, that everybody's view is different. You know, you do what works for you, what you're comfortable with. Some people can't take that. They can't stand the fact that you're out there with me and then you're with other people. And it calls for a demand of, are we exclusive? Are we date? Like, some type of commitment needs to come about it. Whereas some people are just like, you know what? Tonight's the night. You leave, I'll go about my day, you know, until we meet again, type of situation, if we do. So, you know, for me personally, exclusivity all day. So.
I mean, yeah, that conversation need to be held up front. It's a tricky situation. I mean, when you get in it, you in it, and you have to now make a decision, because it can go both ways. I mean, if you don't say anything and you use the silent treatment, you're still meeting up, and you bump heads at one time, kind of makes it kind of destroys everything. When we all may say, you know, it's good, we're having fun, but the mere fact that you having great, and let's say it's great, you know, you're having great sex, the chemistry is good, You know, the pillow talk is all that, because you're going to do that. I mean, if it's good, you're going to do that. It almost builds some emotional connection and emotional attachment to it. And that's where the problem lies. Whether if it's just we're doing it just to be doing it, there is some type of it. We're human beings, it's going to happen. And if you don't say anything, and the minute you see somebody out, or the minute you see that phone get picked up, or a woman call while you laying with that person, don't get me wrong, you may say, I know we're not doing, you know, we're not exclusive, blah, blah, blah. But in your back of your mind, you're like, what the fuck? I'm just being honest. You're like, man. Then you start thinking, do I want to do this? Mm-hmm. So that conversation up front should be had. What does it look like? I don't know, honestly.
I was in a situation.
Here we go.
Because, right, I know we didn't think about something where, you know, no clothes on, nobody had clothes on, but we, right before we had a discussion, I'm like, what are you looking for? Like, oh, I just moved to Atlanta, I'm looking to date around. I was like, okay. And I was like, nope, can't do it. I mean, butt naked.
Wait, time out, hold up. Wow.
Oh,
wow.
And I was like, before that happened,
Lord.
I was like,
Lord have mercy.
we need to talk right before.
Like you said, it was before?
That was before. No. We were naked.
So she said right before.
Right? And I was like, so what are you looking for? And I had it in there, and he was like, no, I just moved to Atlanta.
I'm looking for those panties to be pulled down.
Right.
That's
no, they were
the draws to hit the floor. That's what I want.
They were down. Nothing was on.
I want that spritz. That's what I want. God dang.
That's not right.
Right before we had that conversation, and I was like, you know, that's not for me. Nope. You ain't gonna have me.
Bro.
What happened? Did you guys proceed, or you just got up?
Did not. We just talked, and it was cool. Actually,
okay.
It went very well, to be honest with you. But at that moment, I
mean,
knew,
what's he gonna do?
Right.
Right. Guess me and my guess me and homeboy catch you later.
Okay, but you know, nothing happened. It went actually very well, but it just solidified for me that kind of stuff is not for me. Like even right up until, you know. So I mean, hey, I lived and I learned.
What if the relationship is toxic, but the sex is good? How do you handle that?
You got to make a decision. Still, at some point, it's gonna come to we continue or we don't. Somebody's gonna want more than the other, and you just have to know what you're diving into. And that's why I said, for me, I use that example with me. Before I know me, and I know I can't handle certain things. So I was like, let me know now, before it goes down, what your intentions are after this goes down. And when you told me, no, you about to play the field, I was like, nope, I can't do it. I was like, as much as I wanted to. We have needs too now.
You good? So you went off somewhere just then. You okay? You good?
Yeah.
She left the body for a second.
It took a lot of restraint, self-control to be like, no.
I can imagine.
It's like, what if you guys like argue, or you can't stand each other, or you know, and it's just like, motherfucker, just
so that's
you know, like, do you feel like that's
hey? So yeah, I was gonna ask what like to define toxic, but yeah, I can get to that.
I mean, like I said, you don't get on my nerves the second you're on my nerves. Like, especially if you're a whatever. Like, I've had one whatever, and I learned you don't want to be my whatever. Like, I am not nice. I'm not nice. I am not nice. You have no patience when it comes to dealing with me. You get none. So the second you don't act right and you do something just stupid, like just be regular is all I'd ask. He got on my nerves, like, cool, you gotta go home. I just got here from Brooklyn. You gotta go home. You have to go home. Like,
how brutal.
It took me an hour, cool. Plenty of time for you to listen to some good music on the way back. Like, I don't have the patience. It ruins it for me. I don't care how good it, like, no, you're stupid. You're on my nerves. Like, I don't.
Y'all some savages, man. Y'all kicking brothers out butt naked. Y'all sending brothers back to New York. We just got the plane. Lord have mercy. Y'all some savages, bro.
Borough, you go. Bye.
Right.
Sending bros back to Queens. Golly. So that's the thing. Like, I guess for me, I was trying to like figure out like how toxicity was defined, and I think you mentioned it earlier, like it's toxicity, like y'all arguing all the time. It's like contentious. That's one thing. It could also be toxic because they're like, it's been said, there's been imbalance in terms of like emotional investment. You know what I'm saying? And so I think that's a little bit more manageable if you're mature enough. You know what I'm saying? Like if it's that, because you can talk it out and maybe you can work it out. You know what I'm saying? But what if it's contentious where it's arguing and stuff all the time, unless that's what you're into, because some people like that. Some people get,
That's on that
aroused.
BDSM type stuff.
Say what now?
The BDSM.
Right, exactly. Like some people into that, and that's hey, look, whatever you do in your bedroom, whatever, get you where we're supposed to go, that's cool. But, I think that a contentious relationship, when it's in terms of arguments, stuff like that, for me, I'm not with that. I don't like to argue. I'd rather, love and have orgasms than to fight. You know what I'm saying? So, so for me, yeah, I think that the contentious relationship, the toxicity can't work, but the emotional investment thing, that could be worked out possibly.
Lewis, do you feel like that's something that can work? Don't say nothing. Just come in. You got the key. Maybe you don't. I left the door unlocked. Let's handle it. Do you feel like that can work?
But I mean, for a moment. Because you're really fulfilling a fantasy. That's what it is. To have what you want when you want it. And just like with anything that you do, there comes a time when it gets, it becomes regular and the excitement is gone. And then what do you do then? Because you already know it's the same person. You already know, I can do what I want to do anytime I want to do it. So there's no excitement in that, really. I mean, the excitement is in the very beginning. Wow, this is really happening. Wow, there's no connection. But once that go away, it can't last but so long. I don't know how many people do that for years without having something connected to it. Whether if you have a mistress or if they become mistress, right? Or they become something, a part of your life. So, and to be in something that toxic, I probably don't want to deal with it, to be honest with you.
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm. And that's a great segue into my next question, because, oftentimes as we get older, we'll, settle down, we meet that special someone. But what if you do meet that special someone and you find you cannot let that casual buddy go? Whether it just be that alignment intellectually, the alignment because the sex is great, or a chemistry of both. What if you find that special someone, you get married in 6 months, a year, you just can't let that person go? How do you handle that?
I feel like if you really found your person, like for real found your person, then you will be able to let that go. You know what I'm saying? Because they're fulfilling, the sex is going to be better because that's your person. You know what I'm saying? That, the spiritual connection, the mental connection, the emotional connection, the physical connection is going to be there because that's your person. So I feel like if you can't let the other person go, then the person that you chose ain't your person. And, that's how I approach it.
Yeah, I agree.
Marriage, it gets boring. It gets boring. Yeah, man. Like, look at the same person every day. Like, it's not exciting. It fades. Like with your best friend. You're like, I love that person. But like, it's not the most exciting thing. I know what they're gonna do, what they're gonna say, things like that. Right. So there's that element that's there, and that just is what it is. Yeah. And when things aren't great, or even if they're just like, okay, and they're not like, ooh, you do have that moment where you think about these other things. Everybody does it. If you say you don't do it, you're lying. You're lying. Everybody does it. True. It doesn't mean you don't love the person. It doesn't mean it's a moment. And if you have that, it just makes you a normal person. Now, if it becomes this thing where you feel like you've made a mistake, that's another thing. But everybody looks back on a moment that was better than the moment they might not be having fun in right then. Everybody does it. Doesn't make you a bad person. That's a part of your life.
So just to understand, so you're talking about like a more nostalgic thing. Was the question more like Kait was talking about like more nostalgic, like you're thinking back on it, or you can't let them go as in like you're still dealing with them physically? Was that, I guess, maybe I need to make that distinction.
Yeah, could be.
All of it as a whole.
You see what I'm saying? So so I agree with, you know, you might have a moment of nostalgia. We think back like, damn, yeah, she did that. You know what I'm saying? You know, it might happen. That could happen. But I think that if, like I said, if it's a passing moment, that's one thing. But I also think that if it becomes like a consistent thought or a session, like, you know, like Kait said, like you start thinking you might have made a mistake, and most definitely if you still dealing with that person physically, then, you know, the person that you chose ain't your person anymore. You know what I'm saying? Nostalgia is one thing, but, you know, consistent, conscious, wanting to think about this person, wanting to fantasize or daydream about this person, and as most especially acting on those thoughts and feelings and fantasies, whatever, you know, you ain't got your person.
I'm going to segue over to Lewis. What are your thoughts on this topic?
I believe in karma.
Boom.
And I really believe that, listen, well, if it's the person I chose or the person I've been with, they either had somebody was in the same situation. That if it was, you know, would I want that to happen? Would I want them to struggle with that? Hence, they will struggle with me. So, you know, for me, I like to just go. I'll go all in. I'll say I will exclude that, because I'm not saying I won't think about it, like Kait said, because you're human. You have experiences. They're great experiences. You remember those. But at the same time, if I've been praying for this person, if I'm saying, God, bring me somebody in my life, and I've been really wanting somebody to be with and to be my forever and not want to make a mistake with them, then I will have to cut those ties. And if I couldn't do it by myself, I will get help. And that's why people are in mental situations where they're mentally messed up, because they cannot let things go. And we don't get help for it. If it gets that bad, I need to talk to somebody. I really do.
Absolutely. So going into our pathology and the way that we were raised, our parents, our grandparents, do you guys feel like there's a damaged psychology in being like that's actually being masked by casual behavior like this? Like, do you feel like there's something that we're seeking? I was never loved by my father. He never held my hand. He never told me he loved me. He never really gave me any affection or any words of affirmation. So I'm seeking something. Or maybe it's not even that deep. Like, I'm just kicking it. Like, you know, worked all week. I just need some. Like, does it necessarily mean that there's a damaged psychology, or is it just self-fulfillment?
I think that it's a spectrum. I think that, you know, you just kind of laid out the spectrum. Like, I think it could be from one end where sex can be used as a mechanism to cope with whatever childhood traumas we've, you know, experienced. I think that's definitely a possibility. In which case, you know, like I said, you know, men and women, men could be, you know, they get enough love, they get breastfed enough from their mom or something like that. So that's why they just want to be around women or whatever like that, and doing women any kind of way. Same thing with women, you know, their father wasn't in their life, whatever like that. So they're seeking that male energy, that male principle in their life. And so they go from God to God. That's definitely a possibility. But like you said, also it can also be a situation where it's not that deep. It's just that, you know, you're making a conscious decision with another sentient being, and you both, you know, find each other attractive, y'all vibing, y'all want to be with each other, and y'all do it. You know what I'm saying? So when you start talking about pathologies, I think that it's absolutely a possibility, because sex is so ingrained in the human experience. I mean, it's so deeply ingrained in the human experience. So of course, just like a knife can, you know, cut your steak, you can cut a person. It's just a tool, right? And so sex is the same thing. And intimacy, it's an event of a tool. So you can use it for positive, you know, in a positive way, or it could be toxic as well.
I want to roll over to Kait and just kind of gain your perspective on this one.
Yeah, I mean, you know, famous literary term, everything's about sex except sex.
Yeah.
And it is. Is it necessarily a negative thing? No. You could, like you said, just be working hard and you're like, I just need this. And it is a stress reliever. In that sense, it's not a negative thing. What your intention is, what you're using it for, that's where you get, is that the right way to go about whatever it is you're trying to fix.
Mm.
And that's really, to me, just what sex is all about. In whether you're with someone, not with someone, just in general, it's always about what am I trying to get from this in this moment right now. And as long as it's, you know, something positive and not like a hole you're trying to fill or something like that, then, you know, you're just keeping yourself healthy.
I love you. Jolon.
I agree with Ben. You hit on the spectrum of, it could be all of that. It could be whatever you want it to be. If you feel like you just need some to get through the day or the night or whatever, or you just have really deep issues with, you know, fulfilling some void in your soul, then it could be both. It can be both at the same time, just depending on the situation.
Lewis, is there a damaged psychology being masked by casual behavior? Should both individuals be working on self rather than soul tying or allowing another energy to enter their individual lives?
Oh, no doubt. With awareness brings more control. If you're not aware of what your, you know, what your triggers are, if you're not aware of what are the things that you have not worked on, and it bring up certain things that affect the person that you're with, then that becomes a problem. So you have to be aware of what it is, then get the help. The more help you have, the more you're well equipped to handle situations that do come up, that won't affect the other person. Because right now, we all know, we get in relationships or we even start to talk to someone, a red flag will automatically, you know, tell us, uh-oh, no, you had issues when you were younger, or whenever you have not, you know, you have not dealt with them. So yes, I think, you know, working on yourself and understand what are your triggers and work on what those triggers are, you know, maybe not to get rid of them, but to kind of put them in subjection, so that it doesn't affect moving forward, and hopefully the person that you're with work with you and they understand, because they may have some other things that they're dealing with, but you work as a team. You know, you learn to understand each other, and it shouldn't be an automatic deal breaker. It should be something that you both can work on, because both of you are not perfect. But if you have not worked on it, and you have not worked on yourself, it'll create a problem.
Yeah. And I know in my times of being single, I've always, you know, felt a restraint from my soul all the way down to my vagina. It's like, you know, I don't want anything inside of me that's not going to withstand a lifetime. You know, anything that's a temporary force in my life, because ultimately I'm thinking, like, what is the point? You know, when I wake up tomorrow, it's just kind of like, there's always a sacrifice. And Lewis said something earlier about karma. I just kind of feel like, parallel to that statement, anything that you're doing, what is the result of it? Yeah, orgasm, and you feel great and you feel relieved, but it's kind of like, you know what, that's not the end goal. So, you know, it draws me back to what's going to sustain me and what's going to fulfill me for a lifetime. And I think, you know, that's the difference for many. Moving on, I want to know from you all, like, what is the detriment of this type of situationship? What is the detriment? Jolon, I'm going to roll over to you when you're thinking about this topic, the detriment that it could hold, not necessarily relationship wise, but for us individually. Like, what does it do if it steers wrong?
It can cause a lot of confusion. You know, you may attach your self-worth to, you know, someone's physical act with you and think, oh, they're only doing it because they find me attractive. And then when they don't find me attractive. And you can go down this rabbit hole of thinking lower of yourself, because now the person that desired you is no longer doing that with you. So you feel like, oh, they just used me. I'm like a tissue. I'm disposable. I'm worth less because now they're not engaging anymore. They've moved on to someone else. And it's like you feel used. You can feel unappreciated. You could feel, you know, valueless in a sense, to where it's like the precious thing that I gave to you, you just okay, yeah, it was precious to you, but nothing to me, you know, it's like a dime a dozen. So it really can take a psychological toll on you, especially if you're looking for someone to connect with and you thought it was deeper than it was. So it's like when it comes to an abrupt end and you're like, oh, okay, it's over. Um, you could be left just holding the bag, like in question of yourself, like, what did I just do? Why did I, give myself to this? And you could feel like lost in a sense where, oh my gosh, there were certain situations where I was like, man, I'm so glad I didn't do it, because looking back, I know how I could have felt if I had done it. And it had saved me mentally. And I could even talk about it to this day, even when I talk about situations and, dating certain people. And it's like, man, I'm so glad I didn't. Because I don't know how it would have broke me down mentally, knowing that I did something stupid, to demean myself. So it can take a detrimental turn if you're not careful. Sometimes it was fun. It was like, all right, it was a mental state where it's for me, I'm good. But then other times it's like, okay, I'm really trying to buckle down and look for serious relationship and things. And then it's like, oh, I'm so glad I didn't, because I thought that person was worthy of getting it. And they were not in the end. So it saved me a lot of heartache and a lot of mental distress, just not doing it.
I'm gonna go over to men loving right, because I know I'm about to get some gems right now.
It's no, you know what it is? It's added trauma. We look at sometimes trauma as something, that we see somebody get killed or we see somebody get hit or whatever it may be, but it's an emotional trauma. And those are things that if you don't deal with that trauma, it follows you. You have created a new timeline of trauma to get over. You don't even have to reach back to what happened with your mama or daddy or whatever it is. You can just reach back last year that you went through this emotional trauma that messed you up, that you can't get over in order to get into the next relationship or with the next person. And if you don't get help from that, it will haunt you. It will follow you. It will cause you to make poor decisions again about what you do. It'll even exclude you from people who are good for you, because when they see that you have not worked on yourself and you're going through certain things, they're like, your energy is just off and I don't want to deal with it. So that, to me, that's the detrimental. If you continue to do the same things and then you don't get the help for it. And when you stop getting help for something, which you should be always learning, even learning from that situation, it becomes a detrimental to you as an individual, and then to the person that you may be potentially trying to get with, and you'll lose them. You don't have to, in my previous, and what caused, even in my marriage, you don't have to hit, you don't have to curse, you don't have to be physical, you don't have to do all those things to lose someone. You could just neglect them and you'll lose them. And when you neglect someone, neglecting someone is when you fail to hear or do the things that you say you're going to do. And when you stop doing that and you're trying to get yourself into another relationship, but you have failed to work on yourself and you continue to have that trauma, you are neglecting the person that you're trying to really get with. You're not really hearing them because you can't get over your personal trauma.
Of course, it can definitely be toxic, like we talked about earlier. I think that it's really about when expectations are not either conveyed up front or not met, even during. Like we talked about, the biggest one is like an emotional imbalance. Like, when somebody catches feelings more than the other person. Because honestly, I mean, it's been certain situations where two people start off in a Cuddie Buddy relationship and then they eventually spark a real relationship. So that can happen. But a lot of times, probably more times than not, those two people, somebody has an imbalance, and then it may lead to some toxicity, or at some point maybe one or both of them just decide that it's not going to be there anymore. So yes, it can be detrimental. I don't think that in and of itself is detrimental. Like, I think it could, you can have a positive experience with that, but it leaves a lot of room for stuff to go wrong. And I think it's more women have to be much more cautious than that, than men do. Yeah, just to be honest about that, because just because the way the society looks at valuing sex. So if a man is doing that a lot, then it's like, okay, well, he's a pimp, right? You know, he a player. If a woman does it, she's a hoe. You know, so the double standard, there's a double standard that applies. So again, women have to be extra cautious about that. And I absolutely get that, understand that, which is why I go back to it. If you're gonna do it, it has to be somebody you're gonna vibe with. It has to be healthy. You know what I'm saying? You can't just be out here, you know, in the street, you know, giving it to all, you know, giving it to the streets and everything like that. You can't. Also, you can't, but I wouldn't recommend. You know what I'm saying? You out there giving it to the streets, whatever like that. And I if you're gonna do it again, I recommend you got to have some real serious conversations with somebody. You know what I'm saying? You got to be open and vulnerable, real about it. Look, this is exactly what I'm looking for. These are my expectations. Like, and if you can't meet them, that's fine. It's cool. You know what I'm saying? We can bop with each other some other kind of way. But I think where the detriment comes is that, you know, number one, for men or for women, the thing that for women to be cautious about is that a lot of men just spit, you know, just like we talking about in episode 1, they spit in game in the sense that they're just trying to manipulate you, tell you what you want to hear. That absolutely happens, and that's absolutely something you got to do that. No, absolutely not. But you know, again, that could be detrimental for like Jay said, a woman's psyche, because I can see how, you know, a woman can feel less of themselves because they felt some sort of fulfillment from that relationship, and the fact that the physical act was an occurrence of his affections for her, his attentions for her, his desire for her, and when that's removed, then it's like, yeah, that can leave a void, and I get that, and those some definitely possibilities in the situation. You know what I'm saying? Absolutely. So again, if you're gonna rock like that, man, you got to be real smart about it. You got to be upfront, vulnerable, you know, truth and honest about it, everything, and you got to be mature because, like you said, man, if that thing good, so that Lord, if it's good, you're gonna be like, what time is it now? She get off about 5. I'm gonna be there about 5:03. Give her like 3 minutes to get herself together after work. You know what I'm saying? So
3 minutes.
3 minutes. You got 3 minutes back. Just
Minutes,
you gotta do just tap it. You know what I'm saying?
What promotes this type of behavior? What promotes this type of behavior? Casual sex, the need for caressing, touching, feeling, cuddling that leads up to, you know what? It's time. What promotes this behavior, Lewis?
It's human interaction. I mean, it's human interaction. I mean, you want that. I mean, your body is, you know, full of nerves and things that you want to just touch and feel. Why I think, you know, spa treatments and all those different things. It's the need for somebody to touch you, you know, and it'll lead to sex, because the moment if you haven't been touched in a certain way for so long, and some guy come along and touch you in a certain way, it's a wrap. It's a wrap.
Yeah. So,
you know, I'm just being honest. Even when you're trying your best to hold back and the vibe good, and that's why I said that vibe and chemistry can go can all go together, and then the guy just starts, and not even necessarily have to be sexually, just has to be something sensually. And you haven't felt like that in so long. It will cause certain things to happen. It's just the way it is. We crave that because it's comfort for us. And not for nothing, it's a good feeling. It's a releasing feeling, no matter whether you're having an orgasm or not. It's just a relieving feeling that you're finally being touched, and it makes you feel good. So, you know, one thing leads to another. We crave the touching. We crave the small kisses, especially if you haven't been kissed for a while. You know, come on, ladies, y'all know a man that's a great kisser. You're done.
Jolon, I knew it was coming.
You co-sign.
I'm not a kisser. I don't like kissing, so it's just like not for me.
I can't understand. We separate roles at this point, but guilty. I'm telling you, like, we were made for that. We were made to touch. We were made, one of our 5 senses is touch, taste, you know.
Yeah.
True.
Those are basic sensory things that we all crave and feel and do. So it's only natural to want that from someone, Not, you see people do it to themselves, but it's
It
not the
ain't the same. No, 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 no,
same.
no.
It's just not the same.
It's not the-
You know,
especially for
At
women,
all,
because
yeah.
we need penetration. It's like
it's
it's
different for
the
us.
entering of, but
Look,
something on you that's just like it's like,
Like, what?
especially after a while. It's like
it's different for us too now. Like, hey, look, let me tell you something. I don't think God made anything better than the yoni. Like that was the first. It's probably the first invention of God. Like he's just like, all right, let me go ahead and get this thing
Who
together.
said the yoni?
It's the first. I would. Matter of fact, I wouldn't be surprised if the universe is one huge yoni. Like we're all in, like, what I'm saying, like, just. I mean, that's
What?
how amazing. I'm just saying that's how amazing. I mean, y'all don't understand. Y'all got one, so y'all been with it all y'all life. You know what I'm saying? I'm just saying, as a man who was not born with one and who feels such joy when I can make one so please and pleasure one and feel such more like a man. It's just such an amazing invention of the universe. You know what I'm saying?
I feel like you're
So I
talking
just
about
wanted
the universe and the clouds are just streaming
Right,
behind.
exactly. That's what I'm saying.
Like in your
Y'all don't
forehead.
understand. Like, y'all don't see that all that yoni back there. Look at that. This is where I am. This is where I'm in the yoni. I'm in the yoni right now. Like, y'all don't see this?
oh my God. You know what? That's funny because your background has well, no, it's been the other thing too, but it's been like that twice.
Yeah, you're right.
Oh,
Look,
okay.
y'all see what I'm trying to manifest right now? I'm trying to manifest. Look, I'm telling you, look,
Man,
I feel, I'm gonna tell you something. Like, as a man, like, one of the greatest things about being a man is the fact that I'm a companion to a woman. You know what I'm saying? Like, there's no other greater joy than making a woman feel good. You know what I'm saying? And I'm not talking about just sexually, because I know that's the topic right now, but just in general, like to fulfill someone in all four of those areas, spiritually, mentally, emotionally, physically. It's a beautiful thing. And sometimes like going back to the topic, sometimes on the road to forever. But it can work. And sometimes in some cases, maybe you don't need that. And you need to just, like what we talked about, you can need to focus just on yourself and just until you find that ultimate person. I mean, it's different. Everybody got their own script, you know what I'm saying? And so you just stick to your own script.
Well, in summation, hey, it sounds like we're all saying to each his own.
I mean, honestly, I really would just think, if you want, I mean, anything that you want, you can do yourself. Whether if it's help, whether if it's get into a relationship, you can do all those different things. It's just better with someone else. It's better when you get the help from someone else. It's better when you're in a relationship with someone, whether if you trying to fulfill yourself sexually or not, it's always better with someone else. And the reason being because of the unknown. We have always been intrigued by the unknown. When somebody else do it, you just don't know where they're going. When you do something to you already know. It's a thought process. But when someone else that's involved in your life, it's intriguing. And we thrive off that. And we want that. And that makes sometimes that's the excitement of something new or doing something that we can do for ourselves, but it's not enjoyable when it's only by ourselves. So whether if you shack it up with somebody on a backside or struggling with something
that's coming up.
or struggling with something, I mean, I think you definitely need to not be the only person you talk to. Put it that way.
I'm a relationship oriented person and I want to enjoy those things. For me, it's not boring to be with one person because if that's the person you're supposed to be with, it will never be boring. You'll find ways to make it exciting. You'll figure it out. And every day is going to be a new day. It's going to be, just full of life. And, there's things, you could have a fight and make up. That's the fun part too, So I feel like every experience with that person, yeah, and that's like mind blowing, but every experience with that person alone, will just draw you together, make you a better person as well, because you're just giving love and in one direction, I feel, and it flows back to you in one direction. So no, thank you. No. Good.
Jen.
So I I understand both perspectives. I have respect for both perspectives. From the perspective of that you do not want to engage with anyone else because you're on the road to bettering yourself as well as preparing yourself for your next person. I absolutely respect that. I think that that's an admirable thing. I mean, I've actually been, in that situation before. After a relationship, I was actually celibate for like a whole year. You know what I'm saying? And that was my mentality at the time, and that was rough. You know what I'm saying? But it was something I felt like I needed to do because I was really deeply ingrained emotionally and mentally in that. And so I feel like I had to do what I need to do. But I mean, I also understand the other perspective too, which is kind of more where I am now, where it's like, okay, I'm just not gonna be out here just with anyone. But I can see myself in a situation where I find a woman that I know it's not my forever, but we vibe and we're attracted to each other physically. You know what I'm saying? We maybe attracted to each other, mentally, emotionally, or whatever else. And we get down and we're that for each other in the moment. I'm not saying that's a possibility. That's not what I'm just not out here going, I'm out at bars out here trying to pick up women or anything like that. But I'm open to that as a possibility. I'm also open to the possibility that maybe I don't find anybody in that way and I work on myself and I'll ultimately find my lady. I don't know. I'm open to both possibilities. And all I'm trying to do is just, what I do know, what I will do is better myself along the process. Continue to elevate myself spiritually, mentally, emotionally, physically, like I said before, and I'll see what happens.
For myself, I'm just, I'm just chilling. You guys ever heard of Bob?
No.
Bob is my boyfriend. You guys never met Bob? I thought you guys were a long time battery operated boyfriend. I mean, that is my boyfriend.
Rub it out. It's time to rub it out. Yay, rub that thing out. Hey, look. Hey, that's another topic, but hey,
sometimes you gotta boyfriend. Thank you so much for joining us at the Purple Mic. We love you guys so much. If you are looking for individual handles, you can find them on our page, Instagram at the Purple Mic. Jolon, Lewis, Ben, thank you so much for your insight, your time, your energy, your wisdom. We look forward to seeing you guys in the next episode. Good night.
Hi.
Right.
This has been amazing. Wow.